Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I introduce the two men of the hour. We have Mr. Wayne Perinchief, JPMP. Let's put our hands together for our minister. And also we have the Commissioner of Police, Mr. DeSilva. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together. Really briefly, what we're going to do is we're going to ask these gentlemen to give us some opening comments, and what we'll do is we'll jump right into the deep end of the pool and we'll start taking questions. Mr. Minister.
Yes, good evening, everybody. What I want to tell everybody here tonight is that the phenomenon that we're seeing in Bermuda, the violence exhibited by our young men, is not unique just to Bermuda. I'm not telling you that for any comfort, but I need to let you know this. Bermuda and many of its sister islands to the south of us are suffering with the same phenomenon and have been for the last few years. There appears to be a situation in the Caribbean, as well as us, whereby our young men are exhibiting extreme violence. Prior to the advent or the possession of guns, the violence was played out in different ways, maybe with fists and machetes and etc. But the extent and level of the gun violence has been exacerbated by what we have seen some evidence of, and that introduction of drugs, which has basically been endemic in the region, the Caribbean and with us, has now had an added dimension to it, or a dimension added to it, and that is many drug shipments come with a gun. This is an open invitation to, of course, young people or people who are dealing in the trade to use those weapons. I can identify St. Kitts, Antigua, St. Martin as places that are very close to us, as well as Cayman and Bahamas, who have seen the same phenomenon. Something also that is characteristic of those jurisdictions and ours is that there's been a widening gap between those who have money and access to wealth and those who do not. This situation has been exacerbated by the fact that we've been in a recession for the past 4 years, which means that people that were on the periphery of poverty or not making it, even selling drugs and through illicit behavior, are no longer making it. That means that there are fewer resources that they can fall back on, those that are suffering from poverty. In Bermuda, our poverty is relative. But we all know that it will take you at least $40,000 or $50,000 to put you just above the poverty line in Bermuda. That means a lot of money. In Bermuda and other jurisdictions, the gap has widened between those that have and those that do not. Our young men who heretofore could make it without an education or a good job are now finding it very difficult to juggle, very difficult to hustle, very difficult to make money. They now are fighting over turf and territory, they're fighting over assets, and what it appears to us who are close to the problem is that after inter-gang fighting, and as you can see, many of them actually dying, and a lot being locked up. There was a lot. But we've now countenanced or seen a different type of victim being targeted. And it would appear that while the first wave at least had some logic to it, you could see who the victims were, you could see who the perpetrators were, there was bad blood between them. But recently, we've seen another phenomenon, and that is people who are victims who seem to be peripherally connected or not connected at all to the perpetrators. That will come out later on once we start to arrest these people and deal with them. But I want to let you know that as a minister of government, my concern is not just with the perpetrators, not just with locking up those who are killing and maiming each other and carrying on criminal conduct. I have a bigger, and the government has a bigger mandate, and that is to move into our society and fix the problem from both ends. We need to tighten up on our educational processes. We need to, on the other end, once people are incarcerated, try to rehabilitate them and bring them back into society. But we also need to lift our economy and direct it so that all of our people are employed and don't have to fall back into the recidivist cycle that we've seen in the past. Nevertheless, I'm here right now with the Commissioner of Police to talk to you about short-term remedies. We need to abate the violence. We need to get the guns out of the hands of those who are acting so irresponsibly in carrying out this murder and mayhem. That's our primary function here tonight. We want to ensure that you, the public, understand that these are our sons, our brothers, our nephews. These are our relatives. And these are our communities that are being affected. The police and the agencies that work with them can only do so much. Ultimately, it's going to come back to the families to fix the problems long term, to get us out of this cycle of violence so that we're not going to lose another generation of young people and that this situation isn't perpetuated. I'll hand over now to the Commissioner.
Just before the Commissioner goes, just a little bit of housekeeping. The bathroom is down the bottom on the left, and there's some water over. The bathroom is back here. It's a bathroom, and there's some water right outside the door if you wish for some water. Thank you so much, Mr. Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Minister, and good evening, everyone. And as the Minister says, tonight is really about, for us, it's about raising awareness. And it's about raising awareness of what is being done and what more can be done. And it's not just about raising your awareness, because this is not an us and them situation. It's about raising our awareness as well. And that's why we agreed on this format, this style, because if it was just simply us pumping information out to you, we could have done that a lot easier. We could have done that with the press release and be done with it. So the whole point tonight is about having the discussion around what is being done and what more can be done. But as the Minister says, you know, this problem spreads across the whole community, all facets. All the blame spreads equally across, all the solutions spread equally across, all the pain spreads equally across the entire community. So we're going to talk about solutions across the whole community. But my job really is to explain what's happening from the police end. 2 years ago, in fact, on May 22nd will be the second anniversary of the murder of Kenwande Robinson. And that was a real watershed moment for Bermuda, because we entered an era that we don't know where the end is. We can't see the end of it right now. Over 2 years, we've had 16 fatal shootings and we've had 44 injury shootings. Now, in very cold police terms, that means 60 investigations for murder and attempted murder. And I would hasten to say, even in Mr. Perinchief's heyday, that the Bermuda Police Service did not carry that kind of caseload. And we were not we were not designed to withstand that kind of volume of investigations. Now let me tell you why those numbers are important, because we have a simple strategy for gang reduction and violence reduction. And I say simple not because it's simple to implement, it just has 3 parts. That's the only part of it that's simple. We believe there's a front end, there's a middle, and there's a back end. We believe that in the middle, that's when you find yourself where we are today, where you have people engaged in criminal activity, people engaged in gang activity, committing murders and attempted murders, and you've got to hold those people accountable. We call that the catch and convict phase. That's where you bring in law enforcement and you catch them, and you put them into the criminal justice system, and you convict them, and the court holds out a penalty to them. But there's two other parts. There's the front end. How did they get there? Because they didn't wake up one day and decide to be a gang member and go get a gun and start killing people. So something has happened to them. And it doesn't take a week or a month to build a gang member. It takes their whole life. So what's been going on? So that's the opportunity for education and diversion. And the police have a role to play. And where we can, we have officers that are in the schools or they're on community action teams. We have officers that walk the beat. We put them in the troubled neighborhoods. They try to build up relationships and build rapport. And those of you older than me will remember parish constables. Okay, so I didn't invent this, and I don't take credit for it. This goes back 100 years old. This process of embedding police officers in the community before you need to, so that they can learn people's names and build relationships and build confidence. But there's a back end too, the minister alluded to. You know, there's people that find themselves trapped, that they want out, and they need rehabilitation, they need options, they need an alternative to gang lifestyle. So when you talk about solutions, your solutions must speak to one of those areas or as many of those areas as you can. So for the police, you know, we sit in the middle, we catch and convict, that's what we do, we're a law enforcement agency, but we're actually mandated to prevent and detect crime. Now that's not semantics, those words are in that order for a reason. Prevent and detect crime. So if you can prevent the crime, you wouldn't actually have to detect it. So theoretically, all of our energy should be at the front end. It should be preventing the crime before it happens, and then we wouldn't have to put resources into the back end. But sadly, when you're facing 60 investigations, and you're trying to also keep up with community relations or parish constables or whatever label you want to give it, you find it almost impossible to find any more boots on the ground to do the very front end work. And that's where the community comes in my view, the front end work. So throughout the evening, because as I said, it's about raising awareness, so it's not for the minister and I to lecture to you, it's to hear your questions and then you know, formulate our responses around that. So we'll talk about what we're doing, what we have done, and what we plan to do.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Minister. I wish I had time. I want to address the issue of punishment for gun crimes. And I believe in all my heart, I didn't come looking for support. This is from my heart. People may agree or not agree. But if we don't put a serious sentence on gun possession, if you are caught with a gun, then you are guaranteed to have a certain sentence without parole. Drastic times call for drastic measures. And if we don't get a handle on gun possession, I want to go a little bit further and say that the 18 people that were in arraignment court Tuesday, I saw the paper, I believe it was, it needs to start there. If government can do an SDO and give away land, then we can rush through some legislation and put some legislation in that says we are going to put a stop to this heinous crimes that's going on, and gun possession. If you are caught, I'm not talking about firing a gun, that may be something added to it, but gun possession will give you a life sentence. Now, eyebrows are going to raise up, but the Bible says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, it is set in the hearts of men to do evil. And people, go ahead and clap. It's all right. Go ahead and clap. But with a prophetic voice that something is not done. Mark my words, these young men are set in their ways. Some of them, they have no fear of God, no fear of law enforcement, and so they're going to do it. And unless we get our government officials who write the legislation to stay up late like they did for the SDO, and push through this legislation that says gun possession will land you in prison for life. And start with these young men. Get it through now. So that when these young men go to court and they get found guilty, if they're innocent and they get acquitted, so be it. But the next one that gets found guilty goes up the river. And like this gentleman here said, all the what you call that, the luxuries and stuff, it needs to be prisoned. So that the people of Bermuda can live a little better. Now, I'm going to close with this, sir. I remember when our worst problem was pack racing. And we got upset because guys were riding up and down pack racing, they were having an accident and breaking their legs and some of them were dying. Those young men that were pack racing are now working in the bank. Computers, accountants, lawyers, physicians, all of that. Now we've got a worse problem, and I believe that it's up to the legislators to take this word and take it behind the scenes and make some legislation so that when the next arraignment session comes up, and you know, I know you all call it.
I'm going to ask you, unfortunately, Pastor.
Give me 30 seconds.
Wait till the choir kick in.
Yeah. Give me 30 seconds.
No, Pastor, unfortunately, I'm going to ask you at this point, I'm going to have to ask you to allow the minister to respond. Thank you so much.
I feel happy to say that minister to minister. That on Tuesday, I laid down a paper that asked for increased penalties, anti-gang legislation. It's asked for increased penalties for gun possession, for any offense that of violence that a gang member commits. It's tied to their behavior that the penalties can be not only increased but also made consecutive. Consecutive. So if they get 10 years for possession of a gun, that can be increased. If they got another 10 years for using that firearm, that instead of them getting 10 and 10 together, concurrent, they'll get 10. And this paper will be brought forward in the next session.